Okay, and we are back live. Sorry for a little power outage here in the Clifton area, but we should be good to go. I believe we are
It
good to go.
happens. We got the remains of Ida in Maryland all up the East Coast. So you guys, sis, Kurt, be careful because we had tornado touch ground earlier. So be safe. Safety comes first, Kurt. If it's getting bad, we'll shut down early and we'll do another review show.
No, we should
Yeah.
be good. We'll try. We'll test it out. We're going Plan B. Let's see what's
All
going
right.
on.
Sounds good. Before we had the power outage, before the unexpected power outage, we were going over the SEC. We did sleepers. We were talking about sleepers, and Sis's sleeper for the SEC was Texas A&M. Mine was LSU. Caleb's was Ole Miss. Kurt's was Auburn, and he was discussing why Auburn when we had the power outage. So, real quick, Kurt, in about a minute, tell us why Auburn is your sleeper.
Again, I just, when I say sleeper, again, you see 5 losses, 6 losses for Auburn. And, I just think there's too much talent. It's a top 10 defense in the country. Bo Nix in his 3rd year. One of the best running backs in the country, probably the best running back in the SEC in Bigsby. So, and a new system, I think it's going to tailor to Bo Nix a little bit. So, I am ready. I'm going to go with Auburn. And Georgia home, Alabama home. At LSU, again, just like Caleb's saying, he's not sold on LSU. It's not as daunting as it always is. Penn State week 3. Again, Caleb, another Penn State. He says that's his disappointing team. It's not the Penn State of old. So you jump off, we get that one. I think they're going to have a good season.
I look, the over-under 7. You look, you got Akron, you got Alabama State, Georgia State. You go to Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina. That's 5. That's 5 or 6 right there. If you're over under 7, you have to get Penn State, LSU, Georgia, or Alabama, or A&M.
Yep.
So you get 2 of those. There's your 7 right there.
There you go.
So
Let's go right back to you, Kurt. Let's do it snake draft style. Let's do your disappointment.
You know what? And I'm going to say disappointment. Not that this team's going to be a bad team, but all I heard last year, and again, I'm the SEC guy, but A&M. You know what? You got no excuse this year. You got the big boys coming into your house. You got Auburn coming. You got Alabama coming. You're going to LSU. And here's the next thing. Who is your non-conference schedule? Your big non-conference schedule is at Colorado. We got to go to Penn State.
That's a neutral site game, actually. That game's in Denver.
Right. I mean, come on. That. You're not playing anybody out of there. You know what? Fisher. I want to. You know what? I want to see. Where's the date? I got it right. October 9th. I want no BS from them. You're at home. Beat Alabama. If they don't, goodbye. They're my disappointment because they're not going to beat Alabama. I think they're going to lose another one too. They might lose at Ole Miss. Texas A&M will not be a playoff team this year.
I'm gonna go next, and Sis might throw a rock at me when I say this, but I want to explain why. I'm gonna go next because I'm not the SEC guy. Then I'm gonna go to Caleb and Sis. I'm gonna go Alabama, but hear me out. I'm not saying Alabama's gonna have a terrible year. A disappointment for Alabama, in my opinion, is not winning the national championship. And I'm going to explain why I don't think they're going to win the national championship. Yeah, you got the greatest coach in college football that I've ever seen. He's got a great program over in Alabama, obviously. But I'm going to name a bunch of these guys that are in the NFL that came into the draft this year. Mac Jones, NFL ready, beat Cam Newton out for the starting job in New England. Najee Harris, starting running back for Pittsburgh, top 10 running back already in the NFL, they're saying. Devontae Smith, Sis and I can't rave enough about him. Jalen Waddle, the speed. Patrick Surtain, we all know what he's doing over in Denver in the preseason. That's 5 guys that are NFL ready. And not saying that these guys that are on Alabama aren't NFL ready, because they probably are. But look at how these five guys are, and you got to replace each one of those five with somebody who's equally as good. Until I see it, that's a big shoes to fill because these five guys are A pluses in my opinion already. So that's why they're my disappointment. I look at their road schedule, sis, at the road at Florida. These guys didn't have to play in full stadiums last year. Now you got to play Florida on the road, A&M on the road, Auburn on the road. That's three tough games right there. I could see them losing a game or two, which would be a disappointment for me. And I still think they're going to make the playoff, but that's still a disappointment if that makes sense. Caleb.
Kenny, cover your ears. It's going to be LSU. And I don't know where all these expectations for LSU came from this year, but your season goes from October 16th to November 6th. Florida at Ole Miss at Alabama. That's your season. LSU was one of those 10 games. Oh, and then you end the season at A&M. They could go 8-4. Where did this expectation come from?
Right.
LSU showed nothing last year. You lost to Mike Leach, who won 2 games. And they didn't even have a quarterback. So, not to mention, you go to Auburn to begin October, and you have UCLA at the beginning of the year. That's 6. You go 6-6.
They're going to lose Saturday night. I agree with you, Caleb.
They
They're going to
lose
get
to
beat Saturday
UCLA.
night.
I'll come on next week and admit I was wrong about LSU.
Because
and call them, and that'll be my first fraud slay in about 6 months.
yeah, I don't see where all the expectation for LSU came from. Because if you watched LSU last year, to me, one player on defense doesn't make that big of a difference. So for me, it's going to be LSU.
Fair enough. We'll see. Fair enough. And Mr. Siciliano, I know you're upset with me that I picked out.
No. You're entitled to your opinion.
I know. I'm messing with you, buddy. I'm messing with you.
I'm going along with Kyle. Number one, I forgot the kid's name. LSU's quarterback, the starter, broke his hand or
Max
whatever.
Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Max Johnson. Number two, I agree with Kyle. Where's this coming from? Their defense is shaky at best. I see them maybe winning 6 games this year. So that's my pick for disappointment this year's LSU.
Hell, they could even lose. They go at Kentucky.
That's right. Yep.
You could even lose in Lexington and go 5-7.
That's right. Yep.
All right, sis. I think I'm going to go to you last again for the champs. I'm going to go to Kurt first. No, I'm going to go first since I'm not the SEC guy. I went back and forth on this. I think it's Georgia's year, Caleb. I think they do. I think they take the championship, and it's going to start in week 1 when they beat Clemson. So I think this is Georgia's year. It seems to have piggybacked off of LSU, Bama, Georgia. I think this is Georgia's year. Then it'll be Bama, LSU. I think those are the 3 teams in the SEC for the next few years. So we'll see. I'm going Georgia. How about it, Kurt?
I'm going to say this. Alabama, Sis might hit his head on his fan in a second because Sis is going to get beat at Florida. Sis is going to get beat at Auburn. But Sis is going to beat Georgia in the SEC championship, and Sis will be the SEC Alabama with 2 losses. Okay? Because Auburn's going to have a couple. LSU, like we're saying, is going to be out. I don't trust at all A&M. All Alabama with 2 losses will be the SEC champ and will get into the playoffs with 2 losses.
Caleb.
Sis, you remember what I said before we went on air? When you held your national championship shirt up, and I said, well, I've learned not to pick against Alabama. It's Alabama. To me, it's Alabama. But the caveat is, once again, 2 SEC teams will get in the playoffs.
Yep.
Because Georgia's 1 loss is going to be to Alabama.
Yep.
So I'm sticking to what we said. I'm holding my word. Georgia hasn't shown – they've been able to be competitive with Alabama. They should have been in the national title game. They should have been in the SEC championship game, and they did it. So what do I have to show that they can actually beat Alabama? To me, it's Alabama.
And Mr. Siciliano, you're the reigning champs. Give it to us, sis.
Well, I'll say this back to Kyle. If Kirby Smart, with the team he has this year, doesn't win the whole thing, they'll never win the whole thing. Until somebody shows me they can beat my boys, I ain't going against my boys, brother. No way. Alabama.
I respect that.
I'm there with you. There ain't nobody that's showing they can.
Well, Kenny, real quick, I want to ask Caleb one question because Sis brought up the whole point that if he can't do it this year, and Caleb, you made a great point, and I am a true believer in this. He's not there to win SEC Easts. He's there to win SEC titles and national titles.
Right.
If he don't do it again, when is that job? When is he on the hot seat?
Here's my only problem with that. You fired Kirby Smart. Who do you go get? Kirby Smart was your guy. Mark Richt was winning 10 games a year. And you went and got Kirby still. And I love Kirby Smart, and I wish him nothing but the best. He is a heck of a defensive coordinator. But please don't let that be all you want. Please don't let that be all that you want.
But that's what I'm saying. When do you, as a Georgia fan, say enough is enough? We're not winning championships.
And I get that, but my argument is, who are you going to go get him who are you going to go get that's better than him?
I know it's a great
because
point.
if you look statistically, him and Mark Richt are similar coaches.
Yep.
One just has a Georgia alma mater and one didn't.
Right.
So, and let's not pretend that every Nick Saban is actually beating Nick. Nobody can beat Nick Saban.
Except Gus Malzahn.
But he's not there anymore. He got him out. Nick Saban got everybody fired.
I know.
That's how Nick Saban is changing the game. He is getting every coach fired. He did what Urban Meyer did in the mid 2000s at Florida. He's getting your coaches fired.
That's fair. All right. I think I know Kurt's been waiting. That's going to conclude SEC. Anybody else say anything real quick? SEC. Alabama champs 3-1. I got Georgia.
All I know is Tennessee, if they ever want to be relevant, has to stop making these half ... hires.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm going to say. You are now going to whiff on 6 straight coaches.
Yep.
Starting with Derek Dooley, and your next bet. Let's go get Josh Heupel. No, I don't.
I agree.
I have a friend who's a big Tennessee fan, and I don't see it.
Kurt's been waiting for this topic. It's going to conclude SEC. Kurt, I know, gets fired up for this. I get fired up for this. I know. I'd love to hear how Sis and Caleb feel about this. Independence. Notre Dame mostly has to do with Notre Dame. Should Notre Dame and Independence, fellas, be allowed to play in the college football playoff without having some kind of championship game to get there, as opposed to the SEC playing a championship game and all the power conferences playing a championship game, with the likes of because last year you had A&M on the outside looking in with one loss where Notre Dame got in, and we all know what happened to Notre Dame when they played outside.
Kenny, I'm gonna say, because we have an Alabama fan, we have a Georgia fan on the panel, okay, and I'm gonna pose this question to them, and I don't know how anybody.
Please take over this question because this topic had to do with you.
I don't know how anybody could answer this. Okay, say Ohio State is 12-0 or 13-0, they get in. Say Clemson is 12-0, 13-0, they win their conference championship, they're in. Now you have just say an undefeated Georgia team. They beat Clemson. They beat Auburn. They beat Florida. They're in the SEC. They win the SEC East. You have an Alabama team undefeated. Georgia loses to Alabama. Alabama's in. So Alabama's the SEC champ. Ohio State's the Big Ten champ. ACC champ Clemson. Georgia had to go on a Saturday afternoon in December and play Alabama in an SEC championship game. They lose. Notre Dame, who's sitting home eating ice cream, watching, drinking, whatever they're drinking, and they're watching the games on Saturday. They get in the chance. They're in? How? Why? No conference championship, you don't get in. That's it. No, how is that fair? How is that fair?
I agree. Because then you become, what value does that conference championship actually have?
Nothing.
If you were going to tell me an undefeated Notre Dame team, who I think this year their best win would probably be Wisconsin. No, they got North Carolina on their schedule this year. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me a undefeated Notre Dame with their best win being probably a 2-loss North Carolina team versus Georgia's best win being a 1-loss Clemson team who won the ACC title. If we're valuing conference championships, I think this alliance is going to force Notre Dame to join a conference.
And they should.
And I don't think it should be the ACC. I think Notre Dame belongs in the Big Ten. All their natural rivals are there. Geographically, that makes sense. As much as I tell people, eventually geography is not going to matter. As we are right now, it makes sense for Notre Dame to be in the Big Ten over the ACC. But yes, I think Notre Dame should have to join a conference.
Absolutely. I just think it's ridiculous how teams stay home. And now, don't get me wrong. If an Ohio State loss and Clemson loss, and okay, now you build your way up. But if it's like that team's in, and now SEC, I'm sorry. You can't just stay home. Everybody else, if Ohio State loses to Northwestern, they're out, right? There's a chance Ohio State loses and they don't go to the playoff. Notre Dame has a 0 chance of losing. They're home. How do you answer that?
I want to get Sis's thoughts on it, and then I'm going to give you Notre Dame's schedule for this year. And then we're going to see how even more unfair it is. Sis, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't really have a lot of thoughts because Kurt nailed it before. They sat home last year, drank soda and ate popcorn, and they got in the playoffs. I don't like Notre Dame. I never liked Notre Dame. They're a fraud team. That's my thoughts.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Caleb. Go ahead, and I'll give you the schedule.
I guess the other thing, remember in the BCS, the one thing everybody hated was you ran the score up in the BCS because it was how you won and it's how you lost.
Yep.
Well, do you go back and you look? Okay, well, how did you lose that game? If you got blown out, okay. But if you're telling me I won losses to Alabama by a last-second field goal, or I haven't brought this up since it happened, 2nd and 23, you can't tell me that because we saw them play Alabama last year.
Here's their schedule. They got 4 ACC. I'm not doing it in the order week to week. They got 4 ACC teams. Florida State, Virginia Tech, 5 teams. North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia Tech. They got 2 Pac-12 teams, USC, Stanford. Then they throw in Purdue and Wisconsin, Navy, Toledo, and Cincinnati. 2 out of their 12 games is a top 10 team. And one of them, Cincinnati, who probably when they scheduled this, they thought it was going to be a cupcake, but it just turned the other way around. There's nobody, they don't play the Ohio States. They don't play the Oregons. They don't play the Clemsons. They don't play these teams in the regular season. And they got 12 games on this schedule. I think it's going to backfire in their face. I think they're going to have 3 or 4 losses this year, but I don't think they're that good this year as it is. But if this team
You're
ran
more generous than me.
I can't put them in a college football playoff if they're undefeated with this schedule and not playing a championship game. I can't do it.
Nope.
You're more generous than me because I have them at like 5 or 6 losses. So you're way more generous than I am.
I got them definitely losing on the road to Wisconsin. I got them losing to Cincinnati, North Carolina, and then they're going to lose to, I'm calling it now, they're going to lose to either Virginia Tech or Florida State.
Well, you took it out of my head. I firmly believe there's a chance they lose on Sunday. Or is it Monday? I think it's Sunday. It's Sunday. You're going down to Tallahassee. You know, Mike Norvell's in his second year, who I believe was a great hire. Mackenzie Milton's already been named the starter down there. We saw what he could do at UCF. Graham Mertz got run out of Wisconsin, and that's your transfer quarterback now. I'm with you. You know, Florida State could lose. Wisconsin, Cincinnati. That Wisconsin game is a neutral site. That's not actually in. You know, so on the road to Virginia Tech.
The only way I absolutely give it a little thought of getting them in the playoff if they run the table and go undefeated. That's the only way. You got 1 loss on this, you're gone.
No, you're done.
You're
done.
number 5, and you're not getting into the top 4. But we all know it's about ratings, and that's why Notre Dame got in over A&M last year. So let's, since we were a little behind because of the power outage, let's do anything else on this independent with Notre Dame?
I put it out on mine the other day. I will bet anybody and any amount of money Liberty has a better record than Notre Dame at the end of the season. Don't at me on that.
I like that. I'm with you.
Don't at me on that.
I'm with you.
Liberty will have a better record than Notre Dame, or somebody come find me and we'll figure something out. I'm not that hard to find. I'm on Facebook.
Let's do another hot topic. Let's do coaches on the hot seat, fellas. We'll do this quick. We'll do like quick hitter style on this one so we can catch up a little bit because we got a couple more conferences to get into. I'll start with Caleb. Give me a couple. If you got one, that's fine. If you got a couple, that's fine. We'll start with one. We'll go around, and then if we have any more that we want to add, we can add on. Give me a coach that's on the hot seat.
I'm not going to say Scott Frost, and I touched on it earlier. It's Clay Helton at USC. USC expects championships, not division championships. You haven't won the Pac-12 in, I feel like it's like 3 or 4 years. You haven't even made the playoffs yet. He has a winning record, but you're expected to win at USC. So to me, it's going to be Clay Helton this year. I think it's Pac-12 title, or he may be out of a job.
Yeah, I'm going to go next since I'm going with a Pac-10 guy as well. Chip Kelly. I know he crushed Hawaii, but we're talking about Hawaii. He's been there how many years now? Now it's time.
I think this is his third year. I think it's his third year because him and Dan Mullen and Scott Frost all got hired at the same time at their respective schools.
It's time for him to take a step up with UCLA's program out there. And like you guys are all predicting, go out and beat LSU. Don't get beat at home against LSU and expect to be there next year, Chip. You're on the hot seat if you lose against LSU. I'm sorry.
They'll beat LSU, so we don't have to worry about that.
I got to go, with the obvious. I mean, I picked them as my sleeper team, but how could Harbaugh not be on the hot seat? I mean, you got Ohio State again at home this year. You got to beat them sooner or later. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's getting embarrassing over there. And just like you said with Helton, you didn't hire this guy and pay this guy to win 7 and 8 games, and he's getting nothing close to anything near a college football playoff. So Harbaugh, in my opinion, too, on the hot seat.
And let's I think we can all agree that Jim Harbaugh is a better coach than Ryan Day. So what are you doing wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
What are you doing wrong?
And Mr. Sis, you wrap this one up as well.
Yep, I go along with Kurt. Harbaugh and the other guy obviously is Mr. Frost from Nebraska.
Yeah,
He's done.
I agree.
He's done.
Anybody have anybody else they want to throw out
I got
there?
one more. I got Fuente from Virginia Tech. You know,
Me too. Me too.
He
Yep.
has not been. That has not been a smooth transition. And you know, again, that's another challenging for ACC titles and stuff, and very mediocre there. So I think it's a big season for him, or they could be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you with Fuente. Anybody else? Let's go the other way around. Coaches that are taking over a program that's this year that can pretty much like new coaches that can change the program around. I'll start with Kurt.
Listen, I have a couple, but I think my boy, and you know what? I'm always saying, I think he's always my boy. Gus Malzahn will always be my guy.
Took mine.
Won a national title as the offensive coordinator. Took him to another national title. Beat Saban, I believe it's 3 times. Listen, that offense, they couldn't stop it in the SEC. Now we're going to see what kind of offense, we're going to see what kind of defense Cincinnati and those boys have, because you're getting up tempo. This guy's an offensive genius, and he's got talent. Quarterback's back. He got some Auburn transfers going there. I think right out of the gate he's going to come, and I think they're going to have a huge win tomorrow night in beating Boise.
I think so too. I'm going to agree with you with Gus Malzahn. Sis.
Tarkania, Texas, and Gus Malzahn.
I like the Sarkanian pick. That's a good one. And Caleb.
That was my other one with Steve Sarkisian as well. I'm interested to see, can anybody at this point turn Texas around and beat Oklahoma consistently and win the Big 12?
I'm going to throw one shocker out there. I'm going to throw this name. You might not recognize the name off the top of your head, but I'm going to give you this guy, Lance Leipold. He's going to
Kansas. He came from Buffalo.
Yes.
He came from Buffalo.
He
He won a couple of
program
divisions
around. And remember,
he won
had
a couple
Khalil
of national
Mack,
titles.
So here it comes.
He
Watch
wasn't
out.
there. He wasn't the head coach when Khalil Mack was there.
That's right. You're right. You're right.
So wait,
But-
he's the new Kansas coach, Kenny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless he's taking over for Bill Self and he's going to coach basketball, he's in trouble.
I mean,
If you could turn Buffalo, if you could put Buffalo on the map,
Buffalo's not that bad of a program. Let's not pretend like Buffalo is.
Right.
They're not in the same place that Kansas was that Kansas is now when he got hired to Buffalo. But he won some national titles at the D2 level. Like you said, Buffalo was competitive. They won the MAC, I think, 1 year while he was there. What is success at Kansas? 4-8, 5-7.
5-7. They'll have a great. They'll build a statue for the guy. At 5
At
and
6
7.
and 6, they'll put his name on the stadium. Like, I like the hire. It's intriguing, but my expectations are not very high.
yeah. Anything else with anybody else got any other coaches? That was another quick hitter topic.
I watch Tennessee's coaches just to watch the program burn down a little more.
Let's get into a little, I think, I'm going to call this, let's get into our next conference. My boys, Miami. We're going to have a little fun with this one, sis, because it's the ACC time. And it's my turn to my Miami Hurricanes. But I think it's, overall, I think it's a overrated conference. There's not too many good teams out there. Clemson's the king of the road. You got North Carolina and Miami on the outside looking in. Basically, what I'm looking for from Miami is the next step forward, win the Coastal, and go to the ACC championship this year. That's what I'm looking for out of Miami. I will go first and give you my sleeper in the ACC, and then I'll go Sis, Caleb, Kurt. My sleeper is going to be Miami. I think they're going to win the Coastal. I'm not saying that because I'm a Hurricane fan. Realistically, I just want to be somewhat competitive against Alabama. It would shock the world if we beat them. Yes, I want to be competitive and have, gain some momentum, get your hard game out of the way, play a competitive game. The rest of your schedule looks very beatable. You got Appalachian State, Michigan State, Central Connecticut, Virginia. You got North Carolina on the road. That's a
Who ran y'all
circle.
out of the building last year?
What was that?
Who ran you guys out of the building last year?
Yeah, but they are losing both their running backs.
I mean, Mac Brown's still a hell of a coach, though.
Yeah, he is. He
Mac
is.
Brown is still back, and they got the
That's the
running
game
back.
I got circled.
They
That's
got
the
they
game I
got the
circled.
they got a running back transferring in from Tennessee too. So
That's going to be our game right there. And the rest of the conference games look winnable. So they are going to be my sleeper. You got De'Ara King, who's healthy. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's a Heisman candidate. And Miami also has a strong running attack. I believe they can get into a shootout with North Carolina and can beat them in the Coastal Division. That's my opinion on them. Sis, how about a sleeper in the ACC?
Before I give you my sleeper, did you just say Miami plays Central Connecticut this year?
Central Connecticut State to be exact.
They play Montclair State. My sleeper is North Carolina State.
Okay.
What?
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
And Kenny, I don't have
Right back. I will be back in 1 second. We just had a problem with the flood outside, so just give me 1 second, Kenny.
Yeah,
If you
we'll
could
keep it
just take
running
it.
here.
Boston College.
Okay.
partner in crime, the only guy on the Heisman ballot returning this year, Brees Hall, the only guy on the ballot last year. In my preseason, Sam Howell was my pick.
Okay, by the way,
then-
Kurt's back.
Yeah, sorry
Hey,
guys.
welcome.
It is crazy here. One of our neighbors needed us to go get him. The whole besides our street, the whole complex is flooded except our street, but somebody got him in, so he's okay.
Good.
So
So,
Let's do an Heisman watch real quick, Kurt, and then we'll go back to your ACC.
And then-
Okay.
picks.
and then I think, I already talked about Clay Helton, Keldon Slovis at USC. If they're gonna, their season rides on him. I got the odds pulled up. He's plus 2,500. So that's against a weaker Pac-12. That's somebody else that I like as well.
Sis, you got any Heisman watches?
Yep. Iowa State running back Brees Hall.
I like it.
Quarterback from Georgia, JT Daniels. And Mr. K there, he stole my Sam Howell from North Carolina, and I think he wins the Heisman. That kid is the best quarterback in college football, in my opinion.
I like it, sis. I like it. Kurt, your Heisman Trophy, and then we'll get your ACC picks.
all right, I'm gonna go. I think again tough with the quarterbacks because it's always the numbers. I'm gonna go Howell and Rattler, but I'm gonna take my sleeper is Mr. Robinson from Texas. This kid is a stud. I think Sarkisian's going to run them. They got a new quarterback in Texas. I want to say he had something like 700 or 800 yards in his minimum time last year. So I think he actually still he's a freshman. Obviously he's still a freshman because of everything coming back. But that's my sleeper. But I think Rattler's going to win it. I just think the numbers he's going to put up in Riley's system, and I think Oklahoma's going to be very good. So I would take Rattler.
There are two. I got the Heisman odds pulled up. There are two defensive players that are 10,000 plus to one. One of them is as you talked about it, Kenny, Derek Stingley. And the other one I brought up when Coach was on was Kayvon Thibodeau, who could possibly be the number one pick in the draft this year at defensive end. Those are two defensive players that if we're going to have a defensive player win the Heisman, that's going to be who it is.
Oh, great. Kurt, ACC picks, your sleeper again?
Boston College.
Okay, any reason why you want to talk about them real quick?
17 starters back, including their quarterback. I'm a fan of him. The kid from, what's his name? Jerkovic, I believe it is, from he was a transfer from Notre Dame.
Tom Jerkovic? Does that sound about right?
I think so. And the reason I think NC State, they're playing NC State at home. So I am a fan. Again, I'm not going to say they're going to beat Clemson, but they're my sleeper. I think they can do some damage. My disappointment is, Caleb might not like this, but I'm going to say North Carolina because they're going to have Howell and they had the two stud running backs last year, but I seen that defense a lot of times last year just fail them versus Virginia. I don't believe in them in the big game. So I don't think I don't think they can win the ACC. And of course, I'm going to go with Clemson. I mean, you got Dabo.
Yeah, that's what the board. I went Clemson over Miami. Everybody else went Clemson as well.
Phil Jerkovic is his name, kid.
Jerkovic, there it is, Jerkovic. Okay.
Phil Jerkovic. You had the last name. We just couldn't come up with the first name.
All right, guys. I think we are ready for our next conference. We got about, I'm going to say about 20 minutes left. We'll try and get this done by 10. We may go a couple minutes over. We got Pac-12, Big 12 left, and then some surprises outside the top 10 and champs. So we'll probably get this done in roughly 20 minutes. Let's get into the Pac-12, guys. This is the first conference since the Big 10 that none of us are a fan of, our teams. So I will go to Sis first. You got a sleeper in the Pac-12.
Arizona State.
Like it. I like it a lot.
I'm gonna go next and piggyback again off
Mr. Herm
Sis.
Edwards. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Herm Edwards. Almost everyone is back off that team. They were one of the youngest teams in college football last year. They got Jaden Daniels, who I think is a stud quarterback. Heisman, you weren't on, Kurt. That was one of my Heisman watches. Their backfield is deep. Defense is solid. Antonio Pierce running the defense, our old Giants linebacker. And they got, standout cornerback, Jack Jones, Chase Lucas. They got a nice little secondary. Piggybacking off Sis, and that's my sleeper. Kurt.
My sleeper is, and I am all in with Caleb on this one for this week. UCLA, they started again. They beat LSU this weekend. Chip Kelly gets it going. They are a sleeper in the Pac-12. UCLA.
And Caleb, you finished the sleeper.
All right. Does anybody remember 2 years ago when Baylor was really, really good? Does anybody remember their quarterback, Charlie Brewer?
Mm-hmm.
He is transferred to Utah. That is my sleeper in the Pac-12. They're always consistent. I can see his face. I can't think what his name is. Heck of a coach up there. I'm picking Utah. Picking Utah with Charlie Brewer as my sleeper.
Let's piggyback right back to Caleb for his disappointment.
Whittingham. Caleb.
Yes. Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham. Thank you. It's USC. Because it's conference championship or bust. And they're conference champions in the North, and I'm going to touch on that later. But, USC's big game is Utah comes in. You still play Arizona. I don't think Clay Helton lasts this year. I think USC is going to be his last year, and then I think they'll promote Graham Harrell over there as their offensive coordinator. I think he'll be the next head coach.
I'm going to piggyback off Caleb. I'm going to go USC. I lost a heartbreaker last year when Arizona State had them beat the whole game, and they lost at the end. I remember
USC did that the first couple of games last year where they just out of nowhere decided, hey, we're going to play in the last minute of the game.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add their offensive line could have trouble blocking for Slovis. Vera Tucker's gone. They lost a couple linemen. And their secondary – in a Pac-12 where they played no defense, they were ranked 7th in the conference last year in the secondary. So teams are going to pass all over them in an offensive-heavy, conference. That could spell trouble for USC. So that's my disappointment. Sis, disappointment.
You guys must have saw my notes. So.
Oh, is that what I was looking at? Is that what I was looking at before? Oh,
yes.
Okay. Look, you put some great notes down.
The secret to Zoom, I can look at your notes.
Look, I knew I got some good information somewhere.
Kurt, you sweeping the board?
I don't know if you can
We're
see it,
sweeping
but it
the
says
board. I stole
on the
Sis's
bottom.
notes too. You know what?
There it is, USC.
Caleb called it the best. USC is there to win championships. They're not going to win the Pac-12 championship, so that's another disappointment for them.
Let's piggyback to you, Kurt. Give me a chance.
Oregon. 9 starters back, quarterback's back, the kid Vardell's back, Cristobal, I like him. I'm going Oregon.
I think this is the conference where you get the upset. I'm going Arizona. This is the conference where you bet. If you're a betting person, you take a chance on a couple longer shots here. Arizona State over Oregon in the championship. Sis.
This is why me and Kurt were high school coaches. Oregon.
And Caleb.
We're going to sweep the board here because we're kiddies. Arizona State doesn't count. It's going to be Oregon. I went back and forth between Oregon and Washington. Washington has a hell of a defense, but I'm not sure how much offense they put out this year. And you still got Kayvon Thibodeau on that defense. Mario Cristobal's hell of a coach. I like it. I like it.
Anybody got anything else for the Pac-12? I'm going to move on to the Big 12, and then we'll finish off with a little topic at the end.
Okay.
Big 12, it shouldn't take us long to go through this one. You got Oklahoma, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. You got a couple of teams there. We all know that Oklahoma and Texas are going to the SEC in a couple of years. I'll start this one with – who do I want to start with here? I'll start with Sis, a sleeper in the Big 12.
Iowa State.
You think that – what do you mean by sleeper? Playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They got a good team.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb, A sleeper.
This sounds all wrong. All wrong. Texas.
Okay.
All wrong that sounds because Texas is not a sleeper.
I love
the
how
way
we're
they-
doing this. I love how we're doing this quick hitters because this conference don't deserve much much talk. Kurt,
I guess me and Caleb are stealing notes too, because I got Texas. Mr. Sarkeesian's there. Robinson running the ball. I'm going Texas as a sleeper.
all the talk is Iowa State, Oklahoma. With Caleb, while you were outside, Kurt, we were just talking about the ACC. You got to have some team has got to have do better than what they're predicted to do when you have that many mediocre teams. So I went up and down and looked. My sleeper in this conference could possibly be TCU. I think Gary Peterson's got a solid defense this year, and he's going to be playing the Kansases, the Kansas States. I think he can. Minus
Kansas
Oklahoma.
State's not a team to sleep on either. Chris Klieman can coach. He
Yeah.
won national championships at North Dakota State.
That's true. That's true. I didn't. Yeah. I know he's playing a defense against some teams that play no defense. So it's going to be his defense against offense. We'll see. I'm not confident that this is going to be a sleeper. This could be a 4-win team, or it could be a 7 or 8-win team. We'll see. I got them as a potential sleeper minus the big 2 in that division. How about a disappointment, sis?
TCU, they choke too much.
Caleb.
I am not sold on Spencer Rattler. So if you're telling me Oklahoma goes and Spencer Rattler goes, I'm not sold on Spencer. He got benched in the Texas game last year. And their schedule's favorable, but you've lost to Kansas State, I think 2 of the last 3 times. Texas is still a rivalry, and that's renewed now. Your regular
Oklahoma
season,
State.
yeah, your Iowa State game, you go to Ames for your regular season matchup, and then you have Bedlam. Or excuse me, the Iowa State game is in Norman, but it's like that's still a talented team. And then you go to Oklahoma State for Bedlam. So when you bench your starting quarterback in your rivalry game, and then he comes out as the Heisman favorite, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Caleb and just go with Oklahoma as my disappointment. It's simple. Iowa State beats them again in the championship, and Oklahoma's getting all the hype that they're a national championship contender. I wouldn't lay a penny on them against an SEC team. I'm going Iowa State over Oklahoma once again this year. Kurt.
My disappointment is I totally disagree with you, Kenny, with TCU. I just think it's hard to pick a disappointment because I don't think a lot of teams have high expectations. But
that's the other thing is
that's why I went Oklahoma.
But here's the thing.
As a disappointment, not making it to the playoff and losing the championship.
TCU has to go to Oklahoma, loss. At Iowa State, loss. At Oklahoma State, loss. They're not going to win any of those 3 games. As for the conference championship, hear me out because this plays into my college football playoff. Oklahoma defeats Iowa State in Norman. For the Big 12 championship, Iowa State with 11 starters back on offense, Purdy, Hall, 9 on defense, and Campbell beats Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. But I will get back to you because my college football playoff is going to be, you guys are going to fall down when I tell you what happens. But right now, I'm going Iowa State to win the conference championship.
Okay. And I'm going to go Iowa State over Oklahoma. Who are your champs? Anybody else? We went over champs, right?
Yes.
No,
What was that?
not for me. You didn't.
No. Who's your champs, sis?
Iowa State.
Mine too. And Caleb, who's your champs?
Iowa State.
Absolutely.
So before we exit the Big 12, how long do we think Matt Campbell's actually at Iowa State, and how much of that has to do with what the Big 12 does and how much of it has to do with what anybody can offer him.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
So, how long do we actually think Matt Campbell is going to be at Iowa State? And do we think that him being at Iowa State solely depends on what the Big 12 as a conference does, or what we know the NFL is calling him? He turned down offers last year. How long do we think he's actually at Iowa State?
I honestly, I don't think he's gonna go to another bigger college. I think because where is he gonna go? Like, is he gonna go? Is he a guy that can go to Georgia? Where's he gonna go? So I think he is gonna go NFL. Is gonna be his next step.
That's the thing. He has a backdoor NFL, depending on what Iowa State and the Big 12 does.
Right.
The question is, how long is it? It's already come out. Oklahoma and Texas come to the SEC next year. So does the Big 12 completely fold, or,
Yeah, see, I think he could go. I don't believe I'm going to do what I'm going to do in a couple of minutes with my college football playoffs. I can't even talk about what I'm going to do because this is crazy. I don't believe what I'm going to do because it's something I would never do. But
that's my only thought is when we talk about the Big 12, we talk about Iowa State. Well, how long is Matt Campbell going to stay there?
That's a good point.
That's the real question, because Lincoln Riley's pretty much, unless you offer him the world, not going anywhere.
I'm going to disagree with Kurt. We talked about hot seat coaches. Jim Harbaugh is on the top of that list. Iowa State. Now, if Iowa State was staying, if the Big 12 was building as a conference, I would say Matt Campbell would stay in Iowa State. But if a big school gives him a chance, gives a call, just using Michigan as an example, a big program, I think he jumps all over it because of the situation in the Big 12. And, just using Michigan as an example, maybe it could be a UCLA, a big program. I think he will go there over the NFL.
Stop trying to get Chip Kelly fired. He's not going to lose to UCLA. He's not going to lose to LSU.
USC, USC could be an option. The hot seat coaches that we talked about.
Well, I'm just not sure if USC is as sellable as what they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. To me, USC has kind of lost some of that. They're still a blue blood, don't get me wrong. But the shininess of USC is no longer there, I don't feel like. Because the Pac-12 has made the playoffs, once since it started? Twice. Oregon won the first year, and then Washington, and I think 17.
Right.
So that's why I'm not sure if USC has the allure of what it used to, just because of the way the Pac-12 is viewed.
Quick question. Talking about hot seat coaches. I'll start with Caleb, Sis, Kurt. Ed Ogeron, LSU, if they have a down year like some of you guys are predicting, could he be on the hot seat and maybe a Matt Campbell got into the SEC with LSU?
I think if he's going to be on the hot seat, it'll be going into next year.
Yeah,
Okay.
why not? Why does he? I know he won a national title, but last year? 2 years ago. But
you got a hot coach in Matt Campbell. If they make it, let's say they really do well this year, they go to Big 12 championship, they win the Big 12, they lose in the playoffs. LSU has a down year. Do they look? Hey, Matt Campbell, let's get him
here's my thing with Matt Campbell. Here's my thing with Matt Campbell. He is such a hot commodity right now in the NFL. What is he going to gain by going to LSU? Unless he wants to stay in college, but he's the number one guy they're going to call.
If he wants to stay in college, what he's going to gain is the next potential program when Nick Saban leaves, to build up a program like Nick Saban did in Bama. Because we all know
he's not building what Saban built in Bama.
We all know the program coaches. Kurt, Nebraska after Tom Osborne left, where's Nebraska been? Miami after Jimmy Johnson left, where have they been? Just to name a few. Mac Brown, Texas, never been the same. I could go up and down the line. I could keep naming schools that once those coaches leave, their programs go with them. Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech. When Saban leaves, I think the next coach is, Bama's going to have a hard time, keeping up when Saban leaves. And Matt Campbell can build the next program.
So and I'm going to kind of, continue. I got it pulled up right here. His contract expires in 2023, March of 2023. So if you go into next year and he's on the hot seat, you don't have to fire him.
Mm-hmm.
His contract expires in March. Let him walk. We're going to agree to go our separate ways. As the sports headline puts it, they've agreed to mutually part ways. So why are you going to fire somebody sitting here right now, 18 months from his contract being up?
Good point.
So if that's how you feel about him, you might as well ride out this. If you're going to give him this year anyways, we're going to chalk last year up to a COVID year, and we're going to give him this year. Okay, we'll give him one more instead of buying out his contract. His contract is up in a year.
Right, and but you see, this is like what, and I think Sis was talking about this. Like, listen, Auburn's going to be on the back. Auburn's going to be coming back. Alabama's Alabama. A&M is you're paying Ed Ogeron and Coach O and all this stuff not to be the fourth guy. So LSU, it's all in. Just like we're talking about Kirby. We're talking about Kirby. It's the same thing with those guys too. Listen, Gus Malzahn beat Alabama and Saban. I want to say it was 3 times, maybe 3 or 4 times. They ran him out. Because they wanted titles and college football playoffs. It's the same thing in LSU. It's the same thing, and that's what we're talking Kirby Smart. But you got to know that those Georgia people are going to turn around and say, "Listen, enough's enough. Get us the trophy. Enough's enough."
Right.
It's the same thing with LSU. Those guys aren't there to be 7 wins and 8 wins. Gus Malzahn's a hell of a coach. But
Les Miles got fired for winning 9 games.
It's a different
and
animal.
I just pulled up their schedule next year. Their only notable non-conference game is they have the opener against Florida State. Otherwise, it looks a lot like UAB in New Mexico.
Listen,
I'm just looking at programs that have never been the same, and you got a school that can be the next big program with the next big coach. That's how I'm looking at it.
Well, if I'm Matt Campbell and my goal is to build, why am I not building on what I already have? Because he built that Iowa State program, and Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. So if the Big 12 stays together, who's going to be your favorite to win the Big 12 every year? And if you're winning Big 12, you're going to get the recruits. And if we actually get the expanded playoffs, you're going to make the playoffs every year.
I see it a little different. I just see it as Iowa State not being the sexy place to play, I guess I would say. Like, you look on the map, Iowa State, LSU, I could see LSU is one of the biggest places to play, or Michigan, the big
Alabama
house.
Wasn't the biggest place to play when Nick Saban got there at 6-6 either. So,
I get your point. I do. Sis, will you have anything on this before we move on?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let's we got to wrap up with a topic. Oh, no, anything on Cincinnati this year, real quick? They're the big Cincinnati, UCF. Any of those schools going to surprise anybody?
Cincinnati starts out 8th. If they have to go undefeated to get in the playoffs, because you have UCF will probably be ranked. Notre Dame is ranked. Indiana's ranked. You have teams on your schedule. You have to go undefeated, or you're not going to make the playoffs.
Yep.
And UCF, can they sneak into the top 10 this year?
I don't think they have the schedule to do it, just because Boise State's not what Boise State usually is. Louisville's not a good team. You play at Cincinnati, and the American is, it's probably the top group of 5 conference. It's still middle of the road. You got Bethune-Cookman, and that's not getting you anywhere in the rankings. That's almost as bad as Central Connecticut State.
Gonna throw that in there one more time.
One more time, just for fun.
Let's do one last topic, Kurt, and then we'll get our playoffs and champs real quick. Last topic of the night. Our biggest surprise outside the top 10 that can get into the top 10 for a New Year's Bowl, or even better, college football playoffs. I'll start. I'm going Arizona State Sun Devils. Pac-12, I think they could sneak into the, especially if I got them picked to be the champs over Oregon. I think they can be a team that gets into the top 10 for a New Year's Bowl. Playoffs, no. New Year's Eve Bowl, yes. Kurt.
I really want to pick Gus Malzahn in UCF, but I just think
not
that's a little
the Auburn guy.
That's a little unrealistic. They're going to be good though. They're going to be. I'm telling you that. No shot for the college football playoffs, and top 10. I don't think so either. But I'll tell you this: Cincinnati better not overlook them, even though they're home. I'm going to throw out. If you're going to say top 10, I'm going to throw out a Pac-12 team. I'm going to pick Washington. You know, they're number 20. They got a good schedule. I think they avoid Oregon, or they're home versus Oregon. I forgot how it is, but you know, talented team. A lot of guys.
Oregon and Arizona State both come up to Washington,
so
both of those are home games.
That would be my sleeper, Kenny, and that would obviously be them winning the Pac-12. But that would be going to a big bowl, and I don't know about playoffs, but that would be my pick.
Sis.
Florida.
That's a good one. I like that. I know that's the game you said that we were talking a few weeks ago. That's the team that's circled on your schedule as potentially Alabama's toughest game this year.
They had Alabama beat last year.
Yeah. The Swamp is a tough place to play, that's for sure.
Yep.
Caleb, outside the top 10.
Give me what is Louisiana or the Raging Cajun? They start out at Texas. They play Liberty late in the season, who's going to be ranked because Liberty, I think, started out 29th. And if you look at their schedule, it's not a tough schedule. Malik Willis is the real deal. So that's going to be Louisiana's going to be my pick. As I said, you got the Texas early, you got Liberty late, and the Sun Belt's a very winnable conference for Louisiana.
Let's go the other way around. I'll start with Sis. Top 10 team that's going to fall out of the top 10.
That's a hard one.
I'll get back to you. I'll go.
Yeah, come
Easy
back.
one for me is Notre Dame, but I'm also going to go North Carolina. Kurt.
I'm with you. North Carolina. I don't trust them at Virginia Tech. I wouldn't trust them at Georgia Tech. I don't trust them versus Miami. I don't think they're going to beat Notre Dame. They got to go to Pittsburgh and then NC State. No way. They will not be top 10.
Well, yeah. And Caleb.
I'm going the other way. I'm going Notre Dame. We talked about it earlier. I could see them realistically going 6-6.
Wow. I hope you're right.
So,
I hope you're right.
Sis likes that one. Who's yours, Sis? You got one yet?
I'll say Notre Dame too.
That's the obvious one, I think. Notre Dame. What else? Oh, and then anything else with the teams in the top 10? Cincinnati, you think they could stay there at 8? You think they could stay in the top 10 all year?
No.
if they have one loss, yes. If they lose 2 games, no chance in hell.
But see, here's where, Caleb, this is where me and you agree and Kenny won't. One loss, I don't want to hear anything about them in the college football playoff.
If they have one loss, I don't want to see them ranked above 7.
Nope, out.
Because this was your year. You had Notre Dame, you had Indiana.
Yep, run the table.
And if I'm going to sit here and say Indiana's going to win the Big Ten, then
run the table.
Run the table.
I'm saying right, and I'm agreeing with you, Kurt. I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying if you run the table, you go and beat Notre Dame on the road, you go and beat Indiana, you go and win your championship game, you deserve to be in the playoff.
Right, but you're still not going over a one-loss Georgia team who got beat by Alabama. You're just not doing it.
No.
You're not doing it. Sorry.
That's why in a couple years we'll have the playoff. We won't have this argument anymore.
Now we'll argue about how bad today.
Right.
All right, boys. I think we got one last thing to wrap the show off. Caleb, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate you guys having me. I've had a
blast.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on.
Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we had some difficulties there in New Jersey. The weather's not cooperating a little bit.
Yeah, Facebook.
I know we haven't had many.
Yeah,
we're
the
live
comments
on
are-
Facebook, but we didn't have much interaction tonight with our audience.
Yeah,
because
it
of the
stopped
difficulty.
after we reposted. So I think something's going on. There's a lot of internet that's down in this area. So we'll repost it.
All
We
right,
can repost
we
it.
get the videos back. We'll get it on. We'll get it on air. But our last thing, fellas, before we do closing thoughts, I'll go me, Sis, Kurt, Caleb. Our guest will go last. Playoffs, national champ. My playoffs are going to look like this. This is Alabama with 1 or 2 losses. Caleb's Georgia with 1 loss. Not picking Kurt's Auburn. I'm not picking my Miami. I'm going Clemson, who's going to be the #1 team at the end of the year because they do have – no, I picked Georgia to beat them. They're going to have 1 loss. My 4th team, I got to throw a sneaky one in there. I'm going Big Ten. I think this is a sneaky year for Iowa to sneak in. Okay. Sis, and my national champs, Georgia Bulldogs.
Bama, Georgia,
I
Clemson.
gotta hype the guests. I gotta butter up our guests so they can come
Iowa?
back on with us. No, they're my national champ pick. They're my national champ pick. Go ahead, Sis.
Bama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, national champs again.
Fair enough. Kurt.
All right, I'm going to be really quick on this, but you got to listen because I've melted, and I don't believe I'm doing this because I am the biggest proponent of SEC getting 2 teams. But here we go. Our guy Caleb, you're awesome. You're welcome on the show anytime. But I feel bad because you're going to get beat on Saturday night versus Clemson. And here's what happens. They're going to run the rest of the table, Georgia. Alabama's going to lose to – this is going to be a crazy year. Alabama's going to lose at Florida, and Alabama's going to lose at Auburn. But Alabama will beat Georgia in the SEC champion. The SEC champion has to go. Clemson will run the table, so they will go. That brings us to Ohio State will get beat. Nobody in that Big Ten is going to be, the big name to get in. That leaves us to the Big 12. Oklahoma is going to be unbelievable this year. They're going to put up points. They got a defense. They're going to be undefeated. They're going to beat Iowa State and Oklahoma. But Iowa State is going to beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. But that loss is going to be close. And I'm saying this, I don't believe it. Oklahoma and Iowa State will both be in the playoffs. Clemson, Alabama, Oklahoma, Iowa State. Clemson, with my boy Venables, got embarrassed against Ohio State. They beat Sis's Alabama. Clemson gets the national title.
He must have almost drowned in the flood outside.
Right.
Only one
Right.
team, Sis.
Remember
One SEC team.
the last time he went against – no, he liked Clemson. Remember that one.
Yep.
Kurt,
Now he's going against the SEC.
Kurt, I
He
have a
went against
question.
the SEC.
I have a
And
question.
what happened? They got starched.
Kurt, hello, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So you said Oklahoma and Iowa State are going to cancel out. They're both going to win against one time, right?
Yes.
Against each other. Okay, so let me ask you something. Are you putting a team in that's not which non-conference schedule would you put in? Tulane, Western Kentucky, and Nebraska, or Northern Iowa, and UNLV?
I just think I'm not, the Pac-12 could spoil that. A lot of stuff could spoil that. I think Georgia has to beat Clemson because
I agree.
I think Georgia has to beat Clemson. No, but Florida will not be able to get in. I think Alabama's going to have at least 1 loss. But I think
Because
they will
to me,
win.
there's no way in hell 2 Big 12 teams get in.
I know.
No way in hell.
I
No,
know.
I agree with Caleb. Sis, you agree, right? No.
Because if I'm taking a 1-loss Big 12 champion, and I hope to get in, it sure as hell better be Iowa State. Because if Kurt Kenny's going to sit here and tell me, oh, Iowa's going to win the national championship, well, that's who Iowa State plays in week 2. So if you're telling me Iowa State's one loss is going to be to Oklahoma, I'm going to take the non-conference win over Iowa, and that's who I'm going to hope my one loss as Big 12 champion is. I need both. I need you to go get tested for drugs and alcohol and whatever the hell else you're doing over there.
I'm going to be honest.
Because
you know why I did it? Because I want to pick Iowa State. Kenny knows I've been on Iowa State from the get-go this year that they're going to be the team. But I'm getting talked in.
Well,
I'm getting
you can get there and not be crazy at
I'm
the same
getting
time.
talked into Oklahoma. I see it. I hear it. I read. I'm getting talked into this that it's their best team, their best defense.
Don't fall into the trap. We know how Oklahoma plays.
I got to figure a way. I got to figure out a way. Now, here's my thing. I would not trust Oklahoma, but
you trust them to get in.
All right, Kurt.
I do.
My last question for Kurt,
All right.
guys.
All right,
Before we
hold
get
on.
Caleb's pick, who's the best conference in college football?
SEC.
If you say the Big 12, I'm
SEC.
walking away
Where do you
right
rank
now.
the Big 12? Out of the Power 5, where do you rank the Big 12?
If you say 5, if you don't say 5, I'm walking away.
I'll give him 4 or 4 or 5 area, but let's see where he's got him.
Okay, I am gonna. I will put them 5. But my point, though, is what I'm saying
You
is
can't have 2 teams
In the 5th ranked conference.
playoff if they're the 5th best conference.
again, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm just Iowa State. I believe Iowa State could play with anybody.
We'll have fun with this.
Kurt, do me a favor. Call your internet, call your cable provider, and cancel your TV. Stop listening.
I'm telling you, Iowa State, Oklahoma's the team I put in. Iowa State, I'm locked in. Iowa State will be your Big 12 champs. They're going to the playoffs. Iowa State is going. And Iowa State can play with anybody because they're going to run the ball and play defense. And that's what the SEC teams are going to do. But when it all comes down to push to shove, Clemson will be your national champ. Case closed.
ACC, you're picking over the SEC.
Again,
Sis, what's up with Kurt, sis?
Kurt, go
Sis,
get
what's
some
up with
help.
Kurt?
We love you, but if this is your way of asking, blink twice if you need help. It's okay. We'll help you.
Sis, what's up with Kurt, sis?
Oh, don't drag me into this.
Caleb, how about your picks? Let's get some real picks now.
Alabama, Clemson, Iowa State, Georgia, because you're going to have a one-loss SEC East champion, and that loss is going to be in the SEC championship game. And as I stated before, they've shown no interest to beat Alabama. Same shit, different year. It's Alabama. Until somebody can show me, that's what I got.
Awesome. Kurt, take over. We're gonna you get you closing thoughts, right?
Final thoughts. Let's start with Mr. Sis. Final thoughts for the show.
Yeah, thank you. Kenny, this is for you. If Alabama was playing Central Connecticut this year on their schedule, give me a score.
62-7.
I played Mercer. Does that count?
No.
Thank you,
Oh, okay.
thank you, Caleb. Mercy.
Okay.
Now give me the score when your Miami boys played them.
What was that?
Give me the score when Miami played Central Connecticut. You said 62 to whatever with Alabama. So
50, 51, 52, because they got an offense, Miami. 51, 50,
They do.
51-7. 51-7.
Okay. My closing thoughts. Alabama will not lose to Florida, and they will not lose to Auburn. That's my closing thoughts.
Caleb, thank you very much for coming on tonight. Awesome guest.
Appreciate that, guys.
Anytime you
Absolutely.
want to come on,
Great
we want to
job.
bring you on.
Great
Awesome.
job.
What's your final thoughts?
So I just want to be thankful for A, that football is back, and B, that we have some great non-conference games this weekend.
Yes, sir.
And we're not just strictly playing conference games. I'm happy to see, some real competition because nobody wants to see Alabama play Vanderbilt, okay? So,
And Mr.
Georgia beats Clemson.
Yes, I'm on that.
Sure.
I'm on that train too.
Absolutely.
My final thoughts, Kenny, you'll go last, is one, I don't know what is going on outside, but this is seriously the worst storm that I might have ever seen, because when I'm not joking and they say the whole complex besides our street is flooded, it's flooded. And I'm looking on Facebook, and Jen's already got no school tomorrow. That whole town is underwater.
Stay in the loft. Stay in the loft tonight.
This is absolutely insane. So we're gonna check this out when I get off and
Yeah,
see
be
what is
safe.
going on outside. But like Caleb said, I am pumped up for Saturday. I told Jen, I said we've been working. I said I'm not doing anything Saturday. I'm on the couch. TVs are on. I'm ready to go. I will be watching a little Auburn at night, but on the big TV, Caleb, will be Georgia and Clemson. So that's my final thought. Mr. Kirkpatrick, take the show away.
Echo your words, Kirk. Caleb, thank you for joining. It was a pleasure having you on, talking college football.
I had a blast, guys. I appreciate you guys having me.
Definitely invited. We'll invite you back on anytime you want to come on. Open invite. Sis walked away from my final thoughts. That's my final thoughts, man.
I had to get my Gatorade.
I agree with Sis 100%. Alabama is going to beat Florida. But Saturday, the shocker of the college football season starts when the Hurricanes beat Alabama.
I'll tell you what.
I need you to go get tested too.
Here's my bet on that. I've worn my hat for every single show. Correct?
Yes.
If Miami beats, Miami beats Alabama, I'll never wear my hat on the show again. That's how sure I am that I'll be wearing this hat on the show.
Fair enough. And then last
Okay.
thing, tomorrow, Caleb, don't forget, we got our draft tomorrow night.
Yes, sir.
And also tomorrow night, Wits and Wagers, our first college football pick special.
segment. Yes, sir.
And we got a very special guest tomorrow, Sis, coming on for
Yeah,
you.
we can't tell you who.
Surprise guest for you and Carson.
All right,
Somebody
boys.
I know?
Yes. Yes.
Surprise guest.
Yes.
For you and Carson.
We'll see tomorrow night. Boys, thank you guys.
Get your picks ready, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome show.
Good show. Good job.